We interrupt this record to bring you a special bulletin. The reports of a flying saucer hovering over the city have been confirmed.
Did you really go out with an alien? What was it like? Real different.
Becoming Human, a Mork and Mindy podcast. Previously on Becoming Human...
The Necrotons are the scourge of the universe. Now, you know that Orkans have emotions. Well, Necrotons only have 3 emotions. Hate, lust, and greed.
No love?
No way. And ever since I can remember, Ork has been at war with them.
But I thought all Orkans were pacifists.
We are. That's why every time we go to war, we have to go into hiding. Claude Rains will be one of our national heroes. Now, you see, all we have to do is hide long enough, then they get tired and they go away.
Huh. Well, what do they want with you?
Well, I think they want my reports to Orson. You see, they want to find out whether Earth is worth destroying or not.
They want to destroy the Earth? Why?
Well, I guess it keeps them busy, man. I don't know.
Mork was kidnapped by 3 creatures from this planet called Necroton who came to Earth to suck out his brain and to invade, to destroy our entire planet.
We know one thing about you little sissy Orkans, and that is you can't stand any intensive physical pleasure. We'll have you moaning for mercy.
Oh, no. Wow. Romantic music. Soft lighting. Oh, no! Not the hot tub! Not the hot tub!
This is my last chance. If I don't suck out your brain and destroy the Earth, well, I'm gonna lose my job.
Oh, you poor kid. I'm sorry I was such a pillar of strength.
And those vultures are just waiting for me to slip up so that they can come in and move into my boots.
Gee, I didn't know mindless destruction was such a competitive field.
Fool, you blew it again. It's all meaningless drivel. The Orkan has tricked you.
But I tortured him all over the place.
Let me talk to him.
Well, he ran away, but we'll get him back.
You imbecilia. Orkans are the best hiders in the universe. You'll never catch him now that he knows you're after him.
I have a plan. Oh, boy, do I have a plan. I'm going to make him come to me.
You better, Captain, or you'll be space dust.
What are you going to do?
He seemed very attached to his pet. Yes, I believe he called it Mindy. Catch her. Bring her here. We're going to have a lot of fun. I think I'll keep her little foot for my keychain.
We start the second half of the episode with another exterior of this spaceship. For the interior, there's now a big golden cage in the center of the room instead of the hot tub. Kama and Sutra bring Mindy in, dragging her by her arms. Mindy is in the same outfit, but now she's wearing a silver collar and leash. Nirvana asks what took them so long. They say the pet was a little hard to handle. It bites. Nirvana tells Mindy, "Bite me and I'll remove your cheeks." Then she tells Kama and Sutra to leave them alone.
Who do you think you are? I mean, you break down my door, you mess up my house, you kidnap my best friend, and now you threaten my cheeks? I mean, you're pushing me too far.
Well, if you think you're pushed too far, my job's on the line. Oh, I never wanted to be in the military in the first place. For one thing, you have to wear these drab uniforms. I don't know. I mean, who could look good in this?
The bass player from Kiss?
So for the first time in a while, we get to see Mindy being righteously indignant, which is always fun. She's also a little bit bitchy, the Kiss reference to the popular band. We again get lines that are playing off of Raquel Welch being gorgeous, like when Mork said that they're as mean as they are ugly, so here she is in this drab, unflattering uniform. Nirvana tells Mindy to get in the cage. Mindy asks her to wait because maybe they could be friends. They would do nice things for each other, like Mindy could loan Nirvana her best purse, and Nirvana might not kill her. Nirvana says it's a cute idea, but she doesn't think it'll catch on. Mindy says, "Think about it. I bet deep down inside, you and I are a lot alike." And Nirvana looks down at her and says, "I doubt it." This is another line that seems to be contrasting their body types. Mindy asks what Nirvana plans to do with her. Nirvana says she hasn't made up her mind, but right now she needs Mindy as bait for her master. Mindy insists that Mork isn't her master. And she asks how Nirvana knows he's going to come here. Nirvana Nirvana says it's just a hunch, but she's got a feeling that Mork has a yen for Mindy, and then she clicks her tongue. Mindy says it's called friendship, but Nirvana obviously wouldn't understand. And then they sit in what look like office chairs. It's like, here's this great set design. They just are sitting in stackable chairs. Nirvana wants to know what friendship is, and Mindy is surprised that Nirvana never had a friend.
I once felt something for a man named Torga from the planet Lepto.
Torga from Lepto?
You know him?
Just the name.
Oh. Well, anyway, he was a wonderful kind of guy. I mean, he had long, beautiful hair and a flowing red beard. He was, well, so nice and warm.
Really? Whatever happened to him?
I had him made into a jacket.
And this is actually kind of a cute situation. It's kind of like girl talk, although of course it's undercut by Nirvana being ruthless. Mindy gets her feet, and Nirvana soon does too. She says that there's something about Mork. He wouldn't make a very good jacket, but she likes him. Mindy says if Nirvana likes Mork so much, why doesn't she just let him go? Nirvana says it's strictly business, so maybe that's why they have office chairs. And she says maybe after she gets all the information out of him, she'll take him home and donate him to the zoo. Mindy says if Nirvana does that, she might as well kill him. And Nirvana shrugs and says, okay. She leads Mindy back over the cage and insists that Mindy get in. Mindy resists, so Nirvana suggests getting into something more comfortable, like thumb screws. So Mindy says if you need her, she'll be on her perch. She gets in, and Nirvana lets go of her leash and closes the door behind her. Then we get another daytime exterior of the house, but this time we get a glimpse of one of the neighboring houses, and there's still snow on the ground. Mork, who's still in his tennis shoes and tattoo, calls out to Mindy when he comes home, and he finds a note that says, while you were out, and he says, how nice. So obviously that's on the stationery.
Dear Orkin Swine, we have captured your pet. If you value your life, give yourself up. Otherwise, we'll realign her head, steam clean her thighs, and rotate her limbs. Yours truly, Nirvana.
Obviously, steam cleaning her thighs is suggestive, and it also makes Mindy sound like a car or furniture. Mork tries to calm himself by breathing deeply, but he instead breathes quickly. When Nelson enters and greets Mork, Mork shouts, "Nelson!" and runs into his arms. Mork babbles, and he insists that this is all his fault, which, compared to the episode where Mindy almost had brain surgery, this is comparatively his fault, yes. Nelson pats Mork comfortingly and says the word easy a few times as Mork sobs. Then he notices Mork's outfit and says those are pretty boss threads because Nelson is sort of stuck in the earlier mid-60s. He says that he told Mindy that Mork would be back. He laughs as he steps further into the room and Mork clings to him. And he's not laughing at Mork clinging, he's laughing because Mork isn't going to believe this, but Mindy said that Mork had been captured by 3 gorgeous women from another planet, and he laughs a lot. He asks, by the way, where were you? And Mork says he was captured by 3 gorgeous women from another planet, and Nelson laughs some more. He calls him, you crazy nut, and he gives him a noogie. He asks where Mindy is, and Mork says she was captured by 3 gorgeous girls, and Nelson finishes with him, from another planet. Nelson says that he gets it. The 2 of them were in this together, as if they came up with this prank.
It's true. They captured me and they took me to the spaceship. Then they forced me to undress and sit in a hot tub with all of them. A hot tub!
I get it. Candid camera, right? I heard it was coming back on. Okay, Alan Funt. Come out wherever you are. Oh, you're too much. Well, goodbye, Mork. Goodbye, Mr. Funt. Let me know when I'm on. Bye, Mom. 3 gorgeous girls.
Candid camera started in the 40s and ran into, looks like 2014. Obviously, Alan Funt was the most famous host, And looks like Mayim Bialik was the last one. In 1979, it had just finished a run with Firestone Film Syndication, but I feel like it did continue to air even when they weren't making new episodes. So him saying that it was making a comeback isn't too far-fetched. And of course, the person Nelson wants to say hi to is his mom. We go back to the spaceship, and Mindy is in the golden cage, and she's pacing a bit. Mork enters like he's sneaking around, and he shushes her when she loudly says his name. She tells him that he shouldn't have come here. He says he couldn't have left her alone. She says she's only one person. If they catch Mork, the whole world is in danger, which I thought was pretty noble of her. He says he's going to get her out of here, and if not, he's got a backup plan. He tells her that the Necrotons are biodegradable and they can only last on Earth 24 hours. By his calculations, they have only a few minutes left. Nirvana enters and says, "Hiya, Toots." So he says, "Hiya, Boots," which is a cute little comeback. Almost a pet name at the same time. She says that her plan worked and she's executive timber. He tells her that he hopes she gets executive termites. She says that's not nice. He surrenders but wants her to let Mindy go. She says not a chance. Mindy says that they made a bargain. Nirvana says, "So sue me." And she says there's something so nice about omnipotence. But of course we keep saying that Nirvana is not all-powerful, even though she tries to put on this act. And then Mork starts gagging a lot. Nirvana asks Mindy what's wrong with him, and Mindy thinks quickly and says that Mork has something caught in his throat and he'll die unless Nirvana helps him. Nirvana says she needs his brain, so she'd better cut his head off. Mork immediately stops gagging and says he doesn't know how she did it, but she saved him. Nirvana tells him that this is enough of his cheap Orcon tricks. She tells him to get in the cage before she forgets she's a lady. He says he didn't want to do this, but according to the cosmic rules and those dictated by Prime Minister Fluffy, so yes, another Fluffy shout out, I hereby challenge you to a holotacker. And of course that refers all the way back to episode 0. But we're not going to get one because Nirvana thinks that that's sissy stuff. If he really wants to duel, they should go all the way. The Battle of the Rose. He tells Mindy that this is the greatest mental challenge of the universe. Those with the strongest will get to keep the rose. And Nirvana has somehow gotten a rose from somewhere. And she says that this will be easier than bobbing for Martians. And I don't know if it's Martian heads or the whole Martian, but apparently it's easy. Maybe they're apple-like. Red. She and Mork both take off their jackets, and the audience kind of squeals. She flips him for it, but it's like a judo flip, and he lands on a brown rug. He says Captain Nirvana seems to have won the toss. He gets to his feet and says that she's elected to receive. They can begin the game with play-by-play. So he's both participant and announcer. And he also says 5 yards this way. He lightly pats her bottom, I guess like in football, and says, "Good luck to the both of you," meaning himself and her. So this is, of course, ridiculous, but it's also just fun as a series of short little dance numbers. We get, of course, the tango, then some 40s swing dancing, her tapping to T for 2, and then it looks like Mork is almost inventing breakdancing. And we get her dancing to the song America from West Side Story. She says, "Ha ha ha, you're pretty hot stuff, but I won, I've got the rose." He says, "Ha ha, but I won, you're out of air and time." And then he looks at his ankle watch, so that was a nice callback, and he counts down He tells her, adios, huevos rancheros albondigas, which roughly translates as goodbye, ranch-style eggs, meatballs. He also says and anon, which is Shakespearean for presently. And then he notices that she hasn't deteriorated. He touches her shoulder lightly. He says she's still here, and she had only 24 hours. She taps his nose with her rose and says that these are Nectarton hours, which are roughly equivalent to 900 Earth years. So yes, Orc is not the only planet that has annoying measurements of time in this universe. Mork says, boy, if I'd known that, I would have paced myself. I just thought that was a really funny, cute line. And then she has him get in the cage. In the next scene, Mindy is sitting on the swing and Mork is playing Nobody Knows the Troubles I've Seen on his hand harmonica. He tells her to cheer up and he gently pushes the swing and sings the Girl in a Gilded Cage song. It's a lot of music references in this episode. She gets up and tells him to stop trying to cheer her up. He admits that it's kind of hard to frolic in the face of doom.
You know, I've been thinking about all the things that have happened to me since I've met you. For one thing for sure, I never thought I'd end up sitting in a birdcage waiting for my brains to be sucked out by necrotons.
Well, look on the bright side. You still have your health.
Mark, you know, you didn't have to come back and risk your life to save me, but you did. Thanks.
Yeah, but I kind of botched up. Because if I'd done the right thing, you'd be safe in your own home when they destroyed the Earth. I guess we've had a full life. I only wish I'd gotten to meet Anson Williams.
Mark, there's something that I've been wanting to tell you for a long time, but I just couldn't.
Oh, what is it, Nand?
Well, one time when you weren't home, I put on your spacesuit.
The helmet, too?
Boots and all. Are you mad?
No. I have a confession to make to you, too. Well, one time when you weren't home, I held your blow dryer and jumped up and down on your bed. Are you mad?
No.
I guess we've done it all.
Even in this unlikely setting, in this outrageous episode, we get a sweet Mork and Mindy talk. And I like how they're sitting on the swing and holding hands. He says that they've had a full life. I have to say, the Anson Williams line killed me. It was the funniest line of all. By 1979, Anson Williams was somewhat of a joke even on ABC. Bless him, Potsy was such a dork, and he would sing these ballads on Happy Days. I don't know, maybe the first name Anson was funny as well. You would see this on Bosom Buddies, which ran from 1980 to 82. Anson Williams was just a joke name. But of course the irony is that Mork had not met Anson Williams, but he had met Potsy twice on the Happy Days episodes that Mork appeared on. And I thought it was interesting that Mindy's confession is of cross-dressing, so you kind of expect Mork to go in that direction. Instead, he is doing something, jumping on her bed with a blow dryer. And it could be either really innocent and childlike, or it could be really obscene. Knowing Mork, it's probably both. The door hisses open and all three Necrotons enter. Nirvana says, "Okay, Morky, it's time to get your brains sucked." Mindy tearfully tells Mork goodbye and hugs him. He quickly kisses her. He steps out of the cage and says goodbye to his brains and hello Larry, which is a reference to the McLean-Stevenson show, which very quickly became a joke during its short run. It was on NBC from January 1979 to April 1980, and if I remember correctly, Johnny Carson would make fun of it on The Tonight Show. It doesn't really stand out as particularly bad by late 70s, early 80s sitcom standards, but it did do poorly in the ratings, and it became a punching bag. According to Wikipedia, the show immediately gained a reputation as a poorly written, unfunny sitcom. So that was another laugh out loud, then topical joke for me. And Mork yells for the warden and says, "Top of the world, men," which is playing off of prison movie cliches of, I think, the 1930s. People who are bigger movie buffs than I am would probably get even more out of this episode. In the next scene, Mork is on a brown bed that I can only describe as ribbed. Kama is strapping on a silver hemispheric bowl-like thing to Mork's head, as Sutra is bringing over a vacuum-like hose attached to a white device, which is known as the extractor. Mork asks if this is going to hurt. Nirvana says she won't feel a thing. He says, no, he meant him. She says, well, you tremendously. And I really liked her delivery on that. Sutra asks if Mork is comfy, and he yells, what? So obviously he can't hear too well with the headpiece on. Nirvana says it would be easier if Mork talked, but since they can't trust him, they have to take out his brain and squeeze out the information, and then he again loudly says, what? She tells Sutra to activate the extractor. So Sutra flicks a switch, the machine makes pulsing sounds, and Mork starts to get a brainless expression. Nirvana says she'll take it from here. She tells Kama and Sutra to prepare the ship for takeoff and check to see if the cookies are done. And I just thought this was just a random domestic detail. I don't know, it tickled me. I do want to mention that in this episode, they make the same fatal mistake that Eros and Tana make in Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is that they don't just take off with their Earthling hostages while they have the chance. Why, if the Necrotons can't breathe the Earth's atmosphere, didn't they just lift off as soon as they had Mork on board? I didn't really get that. They could have gone back up, and if they needed to come down, they could have landed. But apparently, they've just been sitting there in that desert-like place for at least 25 hours by this point.
Oh, Mork! Mork!
Boxing have been good to me, Howard.
Oh, it's too late. Oh, it's not in there.
I think it in my ear.
Well, that was close.
Oh, I'm so glad you're all right.
Well, I thought you wanted to suck out my brains, put them in that little jar over there for the winter.
Oh, no, Mork, that was just to pretend for those two barracudas. You see, ever since I danced the tango with you, well, I felt something I never felt before.
What was that?
Lack of hate.
Well, you know what they say, lack of hate is a many splendid thing.
Oh, Mork, Mork. If anyone on my planet knew what I was feeling now, well, I'd be vaporized. But somehow, ever since I met you, I've discovered there's a woman inside of me.
Oh, yes, I can see where she's hiding.
Oh, why?
Oh, why?
Oh, why? Why? Do you have such power over me?
I do?
Yes. My life used to be so simple. Up at 9, maim, torture, mutilate, and then a light supper and curl up with a good book. But now I have to have you. I want to take you home with me. You'll be my slave. Oh, we'll have such fun together. Oh.
Well, we really can't.
We can't? What could be more important than being my slave?
My friendship for Mindy.
You mean you would pass up cosmic euphoria for that thing scratching around in the cage?
You got it.
Well, maybe you'll feel differently after I put your pet to sleep.
So Mork sounds like he's a punch-drunk boxer talking to Howard Cosell, and we had 2 or 3 references to Mr. Cosell in the first season. And we can see that she genuinely cares about Mork, and luckily he quickly recovers. I have to say that the gold jars on that case are somewhat phallically shaped. Nirvana doesn't know about love. She can only experience this so far as lack of hate, and Mork says that lack of hate is a many-splendored thing, so that's sane. They're very kind of snuggly in this episode, and then it becomes suggestive when she says there's a woman inside her, and he says she can see where the woman is hiding. And it seems like she's falling for him, but at this point she can only express it in terms of slavery, I guess, because of how her culture works. And it's significant that his friendship with Mindy is more important than what Nirvana calls cosmic euphoria. The way that she blows Mork a kiss before threatening to put his pet to sleep shows that mix of her sweetness and cuteness with her ruthlessness. In the next scene, Mindy is sitting on the swing again, and Nirvana comes in, followed by Mork, who tells her not to do anything rash. Mindy is very happy that Mork still has his brain, and he says, that's the good news. There's some bad news, but you don't want to hear it right now. So he's trying to protect her from this knowledge. Mork wants to discuss this with Nirvana, but she says that Necrotons have a saying: if an enemy gets in your way, you just needlepoint a sampler out of their hair. And he says, you're a real homebody, you know that? And she says, mm-hmm. And in her own way, by Necroton standards, she is a homebody and somewhat domestic and old-fashioned. She says she doesn't have the time to do all that, as in needle pointing, and she grabs a sword and says she's going to part Mindy's hair down to her toes. And Mindy wonders what's going on, and Mork says it's just girl talk, something about split ends. Mork tells Nirvana that if she hurts Mindy, she'll break his heart. She says he can have one of hers. She has 3. And I can't remember, I feel like there was an episode or 2 where Mork had 4 hearts and they were in odd locations. That might have been the episode where he got the exam by a pediatrician. Nirvana calls Mindy pet again and says that she's littered her last cage. Mindy says that if Nirvana comes near her, she'll poke her with her perch, and she holds her swing threateningly. So I like that Mindy isn't just a damsel in distress. She's doing her best to defend herself, even with these aliens with tremendous powers. This time, Mork says that if Nirvana hurts Mindy, she'll never be his friend. Nirvana says that Mork will forget about her. Mork says you never forget about a friend, even when they're gone.
Oh, I don't know what I'm feeling. No matter what I do, I can't win. You are driving me crazy.
Mork, I think she wants to be a little more than just friends.
I don't care what you call it. If I can't have him, no one can.
Oh, it's a strange way of showing affection, men.
It's time for slicing and dicing.
No. Not so fast, Captain Fiorucci. Ha ha ha.
Ha! You missed the whole galaxy.
Really? I warn you, I'm the best swordsman in all of Orc. Well, I never actually faced a person.
But I am undefeated at Capes and Pictures.
Oh.
So a lot of this episode is about Nirvana's conflict and internal struggle, all these feelings that she's had that she's never had before, which is sort of a mirror image of what Mork went through over the first season. Mindy can tell that Nirvana wants more than Mork's friendship. She's always aware when women are after Mork, as when Kathy had the whole paternity suit scam. Captain Ferrarucci is a reference to the makeup company. I think Mork is doing kind of a Douglas Fairbanks Sr. routine here. You'll notice that when the space pitcher falls to the floor, an M shape is revealed, kind of like Zorro. We see that Mork, not unlike Nirvana, is bluffing, and he admits he's never actually had a sword fight with a person. And then Nirvana says she can't do this. We can see Kama and Sutra in the background behind Mindy's cage, so we know that they're listening, and Nirvana says that Mork wins. She'll make a deal. Mindy tells Mork that he can't trust her. Nirvana snaps, "Oh, peck your cuddle bone." Nirvana says she'll set Mork's pet free. She'll say that the Earth was uninhabitable, if only he'll come back and be her mate. So now she's actually offering an equal relationship. He says that's a wonderful offer, and can he sleep on it? And I didn't know if it's a delaying technique or he's talking about like sleeping with her. Wasn't really sure how to take that line. Then Nirvana says that he can be the master and she'll be the slave, and she kneels before him, so it's a complete turnaround. Kama and Sutra have heard enough. They tell her to drop her sword. Kama points what turns out to be a death ray at Nirvana, who says, "Don't point that at me, I'm your captain." Sutra says she's their ex-captain. Filing false reports is treason. They're going to vaporize her and take the 2 specimens home with them. They'll be heroes. Nirvana tells Mork, "See? I told you they wanted my job." Sutra wants to crush Nirvana to death slowly with the Necroton death hug. Kama complains that always wrinkles her clothes. She just wants to vaporize Nirvana. Mindy says, "Hey, you with the death ray, you got a split in your tights." Kama looks down and Nirvana kicks the death ray out of her hand and into the cage. Mindy picks it up and tells the ladies to put their hands up. Sutra says Mindy can't shoot. She doesn't know the firing sequence. And then she wants to do the death hug.
No! Don't harm her! Ow! Oh!
Okay, gang, reach for Mars. I mean, up on your hands. No, not you. No, not you, Dad. No, you, Mork.
Min, she's with me.
Okay, open the door.
Again, the titillating thing of Mork is in the hug with these three gorgeous women, although he is doing it to save Nirvana's life. And I like that Mindy got to do something heroic, and we get some physical comedy with people pointing in different directions. And Nirvana returns the favor by letting Mindy out of the cage. She tells her, "Get out, pet." Mindy says she's not a pet. Nirvana actually says sorry. She tells Kama and Sutra, "Get in, goons." Mork and Mindy hug. Not a death hug, just a nice hug. Nirvana doesn't understand why Mork and Mindy would help her after how she's treated them. Mork says, "What else would a friend do?" Nirvana says she doesn't know. She never had any. Mindy asks if Nirvana is going to let them go. Nirvana says, "Sure, you got the gun." And Mork pulls the death ray away from Mindy, who resists, and he hands it to Nirvana. He tells Nirvana, "We have more with our friendship than can be destroyed by any gun. Now will you let us go?" She asks if she has to, and he says, "A friend would."
You guys sure play rough.
This time I had my eyes closed.
Yeah, me too.
Well, goodbye, Nirvana.
Next time you come to this planet, I won't hide.
Oh, what are you going to do with Kama and Sutra?
I'm gonna try to teach him what you taught me, but if that doesn't work, I think I'll have him stuffed. Wait. Well, when you have friends, does it hurt when they leave you?
Yes.
Well, then I guess I found some real friends.
So it's kind of sweet that he returns the eye kiss, and before it was a form of seduction to get at Mork's brain, but now it's kind of a gesture of friendship. We see that Nirvana hasn't totally changed because she's going to try to teach Kama and Sutra about friendship, but she's still ruthless. She is learning that when a friend leaves, it hurts. Mork is in the attic summoning Orson, and one of the things he says is "Ollie Ollie fat sin free," which is like hide and seek. Besides being a fat joke, it's a reference to him trying to hide and also seek in this episode. Orson says he's relieved to see Mork in one piece. Mork asks if Orson expected to see him in a bikini, in one-piece suit, and calls him "your Harper's bizarreness." Orson congratulates him on surviving the attack of the Necroton. Yes, it's singular. Mork says it was a week to end all weeks, which is fair. Orson asks if he has any special observations to report.
You must remember this, that a kiss is still a kiss, and a sigh is just a sigh. And on Earth, friendship is as contagious as the flu.
Are you sure?
Well, it must be, sir. I mean, I caught it from Mindy, then I gave it to Nirvana, captain of the Necrotons.
You gave it away.
Well, I got it right back. I mean, that's the funny thing about friendship, you know? It's like a boomerang. It comes right back at you. Bam!
So we get a Casablanca reference, which ties in with Humphrey Bogart from earlier. We see that Mork considers friendship to be contagious. In this instance, he puts the accent on the last syllable when he says Necrotons. When he's talking about the boomerang, the subtitles call it Australian, but to me it sounds more like his televangelist voice. Orson says that Mork wasted friendship on their enemy. Mork says now there will be one less enemy. Orson says there's plenty more Necrotons where she came from, which suggests that they were hoping to maybe do more Necrotons episodes later, depending on the response to this episode. Mork says, how's this for a plan? If everybody makes two friends, and then he goes on out into infinity, so it's kind of a math lesson. And he says, soon we'll be flying the friendly skies and united. So, an airplane slogan joke. And he signs off and says, Nanu Nanu. At the time, this was a very controversial episode because they were really sexing up the show much more than they had, even more than the previous episode, which was set in a strip club. I mean, there could have been a way to do this episode, maybe with a different actress than Raquel Welch, where it would not be so much innuendo. But I've got to say, I found it delightful and fun. I don't remember what I thought of it at the time. I think, it was kind of just outrageous and crazy, but I got a kick out of it today. Everybody's just really into it. Apparently Raquel Welch was a total nightmare behind the scenes, but on screen, she owns it. It's just fun. And Deborah Jo Fordrin and Vicky Frederick are giving it their all, and they play off of each other well. I even thought Nelson was fun in this episode. I mean, I'm still kind of on the Da Vinci's, but, you know, they're just there in that first scene, and, you know, you kind of feel sorry for them. They got all these customers, but then, you know, Mark is making things a shambles as usual. And I loved all the pop culture references and references to politics. I just had a blast. I thought it was really hilarious. The costumes were amazing. I mean, yes, very revealing, but also just really fun. And the set design was, like I said, just beautifully tacky in a late 70s sort of way. At the same time, we get this message of the importance of friendship and how important Mork and Mindy are to each other, that they would rescue each other, or that he literally thinks the world of her. Obviously, he doesn't want Earth to be destroyed and or conquered, but Mindy is his favorite human, and he's going to do what he can for her, and she's worried about him. They're both trying to be brave in these circumstances. In a different way than the episode where they went and stayed in Exeter's cabin. It's an unlikely setting for heart-to-heart talk, and it didn't get as sentimental as some. It got a little bit silly and goofy, but, you know, there's some genuine emotion there. Things moved along. Felt like, yeah, this should be an hour. I rate each of these episodes on a 0 to 4 egg scale, which measures how well it delivers what I'm looking for in the series. I've got to give it a 3.5. It's good, not just by season 2 standards, but this would be a standout in season 1. Not perfect, but just a delight. The energy was good. There are a lot of season 2 episodes where things just feel they're just kind of going through the motions. Everybody was into it, whatever backstage drama. But yes, it was controversial. Taken along with the next episode, it would be seen as a major misstep for the series. That they were clearly getting away from a kid-friendly image into naughtier territory, more suggestive territory. I don't think it's as well done in the next episode, but we'll look at that next time. So I also rate these episodes on a 0 to 4 heart scale, because one of the things that matters about this show to me is the Mork and Mindy relationship. And this is an interesting one because we have Mork being pursued by another woman and in a sense proposed to. We also have him interacting with the two sexy, suggestively named other Necrotons, Kama and Sutra. And obviously he's tempted, but he chooses Mindy. And I already talked about their bond. And she calls it friendship. I think that Nirvana is a little more insightful in guessing that Mork has a yen for her. There have been and will be shippier episodes in this, but I'm going to go with a 2.5, back up to where we started at the beginning of the season. Because the bond that Mork and Mindy have, like I said, it could be platonic. It does impact the plot and possibly change intergalactic history. This episode is highly recommended unless you really, really hate innuendo and smutty jokes. 3.5 eggs, 2.5 hearts. This is Paula Schaffner with episode 34, Mork versus the Necrotons. Nanu, Nanu. Don't put baby oil in your hot tub.
I am not well. What is this feeling that I'm not trying to squelch? I don't know your last name, I just know it's not well. Let us cast a spell. And if you was a ghost, I wish that you'd haunt me. But what I'd really like the most is, baby, maybe that you want me.